right?
They're Israeli citizens, but
refugees.
that's because Israel tries to incorporate them into the country, right? Whereas the Arab states surrounding the Palestinians explicitly will never incorporate Palestinians. You've got people living for generations in refugee camps.
But why should they? They're not Syrians or Lebanese.
Why should
or
they?
Whatever.
Whoa. Can you imagine if someone made that argument for like Europe taking in refugees? Would you say that? Would you say that we can't take Syrian refugees in France because they're not French? What's the point in being a refugee, mother? Holy shit. Please give us a substantial criticism of the IDF. Yeah, okay. Let's watch this Destiny debate, shall we? Let's watch this, because apparently this Dan Cohen guy is like kind of a big deal on Twitter. I don't know. Fuck. Let's go. You're racist, fascist, Zionist, pro-genocide. Okay. Let's go.
I'm a full proponent of one democratic state from the river to the sea. That's it.
The UN partition plan was...
It's such an easy, like, I'm not even against it, like, but I feel like everyone would like this, right? Everyone would like a democratic state with equal representation from the river to the sea, but it's like this whole, like, everyone would like the idea, would like to have a secular democratic state with equal rights and representation. It's like neither group wants that. Like, was it 27% of Palestinians said they wanted that? Which is quite a hill to climb. You probably need to just take a few more practical positions between now and then. Oh god, it's such a grandstand.
Was 47.
But you said Israel was established in 1947. That's not true.
I didn't say Israel was established in 47. I said their Declaration of Independence was 48. The partition plan was 47. It was rejected by the
You said
Arabs.
the establishment of the state was in 47. So you're
Okay.
wrong, man.
I mean, everybody can go back and listen, but
People, there's nothing more insecure than someone who maybe there's a misspeak or something when you say, or like just like a minor mistake, and they're just like, they'll just hang on to it for absolute dear life to catch you out. Yeah, fuck. There's nothing more insecure than someone who tries to do that. Like when you're so fragile that you're talking to someone and you're like, oh, it's 20-5 right now, and they're like, oh, actually, it's 4:38. You fucking idiot! Like, yeah, you're just wrong, man.
partition plan was 47. All of the Arab
Why are
states
you a
have been...
Zionist? That's straight up racist,
No,
man.
it's not
just
racism.
Totally,
None of this has to do with racism. It has to do with the idea
It totally does. I am a journalist. I actually
Uh-huh.
have skin in the game. I go to places that I talk about, so I actually know what I'm talking about, unlike you.
You just want to sit here and like
called
talk
for
about how the
genocide.
only
You're a
possible
little
solution is
fat.
Yeah. Hey, can you hear me?
All right, yeah, I can.
Hey, just as a quick heads up before you say anything, I've been streaming a while, so I'm always live on my stuff, so people can hear you, so don't give away any personal information or phone numbers or anything like that, yeah.
All right, I'll keep that to myself.
Yeah.
I can do this for like 30 minutes. I gotta go eat dinner with my family in a little bit, so I can give you a little bit, but...
Yeah, you're fine, cool. Real quick, do you want to introduce yourself and then outline your, I guess, general positions on the Israeli-Palestine stuff? I was going through some of your Twitter and yeah, go for it.
Sure. I'm Dan Cohen. I'm a journalist and a filmmaker. I have an outlet I've recently founded called Uncaptured Media. That's what this like toxic sludge alphabet soup behind me is. I made a documentary called Killing Gaza that when I was in Gaza for 7 months between 2014 and 2017, including during the last couple weeks of the 51-day war in the summer of 2014, where I was under Israeli bombs and all kinds of things. So yeah, that became the documentary Killing Gaza. You can watch on my channel Uncaptured Media for free, or if you want to pay $5, you can
Fucking
you can go to
intros, bro.
killinggaza.com. And yeah, that's pretty much it. My position is, well, I'm an anti-Zionist, and I'm a full proponent of one democratic state from the river to the sea. That's it.
Gotcha. Okay, just like I guess a couple of questions I'm kind of curious about. If you say that you're advocating for a type of one-state solution, as part of that one-state solution, are you in favor of the unlimited right of return for Palestinians?
Yes, yes, absolutely. That's enshrined in international law. I mean, you have millions of Palestinians living in refugee camps, displaced right around Israeli-controlled borders in Lebanon and Jordan and Syria, who have, who want to go back home. So yeah, definitely.
Do you have any criticisms for those Arab states that intentionally refuse to allow citizenship or passports for any of those displaced Palestinians in order to maintain the conflict with Israel?
I mean, I wouldn't agree with that characterization that that's why they don't provide citizenship for.
You might. I don't really agree with that completely either. But the other explanation for it is that they're racist, is that they're whatever the fuck you xenophobic, or like especially Lebanon, Jordan. Yeah, is that they hate Palestinians. Yeah, or they just don't care about them. That's the other explanation.
Palestinians, but I mean Jordan does for many Palestinians. It's the vast majority of Jordan's population.
What conflict is Jordan maintaining? Well, that's what I mean. I think in Jordan's case, it's just that they are quite fucked off about Black September still, I guess, or that there's also just like a general. These countries are a bit more because they're fairly new countries, and because a lot of their political systems were kind of like partially inherited from people who had been achieved high up positions under like the Ottoman Empire. They're just like they're not as interested in fucking the refugee convention and all this other shit. Like, generally countries that don't have to take in refugees won't take in refugees. What's your disagreement with Dustin's characterization? I don't think Lebanon is shit to Palestinian refugees primarily because they want to keep up a fight with Israel. I don't believe that. I think it's because they have this insanely stupid constitution that basically requires a more or less three-way demographic split between Christians, Sunnis, and Shias, and they don't want Palestinians to disturb that demographic. And obviously because there's a lot of like bitterness between because of the PLO and because of the massacres that went back and forth, especially at the hands of the Christians. So there's just a lot of, for the Christians, it's just racism or xenophobia, whatever you want to call it.
Is Palestinian.
I think that explains their intent a lot more than that they just want to keep the political Palestinian question alive. Yeah. But
nonetheless, I mean, I don't support, most of those governments. I mean, I don't support, the Jordanian monarchy or Lebanon's political system. I don't support any of that.
Okay. So. Just as two quick things. So I think the Arab states, it was the Arab League's Resolution 1547, like explicitly denied issuing nationality to Palestinians, I think because it would hamper their territorial claims in Israel. And then for the second thing, for Jordan's population
That's from like the 50s, right? Yeah.
Largely Palestinian. I think that's because prior to 67, the Six-Day War, it's because the West Bank was owned by, called then Transjordan, and a lot of those Palestinians at that point in time were given dual citizenship. But I don't think Jordan issues dual citizenship anymore, or the process of getting it for a Palestinian is incredibly difficult, and there's a lot of fees attached to it as well, so it's effectively like blocked off from them. I only ask because I hear a lot of people talk about the Palestinian refugee issue, but a couple of the kind of strange things to me is that one, a Palestinian and their family can live for generations in some of these Arab states and never even have an opportunity to get like rights to citizenship. And then two, the idea that like the UN doesn't try to resettle any Palestinians ever because it's not part of the mandate to resettle them, just to maintain that conflict with Israel. Both of those things seem like pretty toxic to me. Like it's just basically using Palestinians as a tool to continue fighting with the Israeli country.
I mean, Jordan is paid huge amounts of money by the U.S. And it coordinates security with Israel, basically, in order to prevent Palestinians from returning to their homeland. So, I mean, all of this, the fundamental contradiction or issue at hand is the fact that Israel expelled a whole bunch of people in order to, ethnically cleanse them in 47 and 48, once again in 67. In order to have an artificially engineered Jewish demographic majority. So people like me, I'm an American Jewish guy from Arizona, could show up in Tel Aviv and ask for a passport and get it after a few days, whereas someone, you know, whose grandmother was like, you know, raped in some village and, you know, fled to Lebanon or whatever, Syria, can't, and has to live in some, you know, some awful refugee camp ever since. I mean, that's the fundamental issue. Whatever the Arab states, their individual policies are, which I don't, you know, I'm not in support of. That's not the main issue. The main issue is you know what I just described.
Do you think that when I look for like solutions to this problem, do you think it's fair that Israeli citizens feel like if a one-state solution happens with an unlimited right of return, that there would be a whole bunch of basically anti-Jewish violence that would occur on the back of that?
No, I mean, I think, in fact, it's just the opposite. If there's not some kind of real solution where everyone's rights are honored, then that's when you're going to see a bunch of violence. That's when you're going to see an October 7th, what we did just see, where you have a hostile population that has every reason to be hostile. I mean, if I were ethnically cleansed from my, you know, homeland, from my country, I would be pissed off. I would probably.
So they're not going to be any hostility, but they're also right to be hostile. Okay.
Take up arms, you know, like anybody would.
I might have not been paying attention properly to that, but I feel like that's what he was. Okay. I'm pretty sure for Israelis and Palestinians, like both sides have pretty obscenely high numbers that want to kick out all the other ones. Yeah.
If I was expelled from my house here in Washington, D.C. from some whack job who thought, you know, God gave him the title, the deed to my house, well, you can bet that I would do everything possible to get it back. And probably my kid would and my grandkid. And so unless there's like, okay, we need to figure out some way for the rights of those people to be honored, and, you know, and now the people who are now living here, for them to not be like, you know, expelled, then, you know, that's the only way. Otherwise, we're going to see, I mean, consider what Israel's position is now. It's now in a horrible war in Gaza where it's killing a Palestinian child every 15 minutes. In a war it frankly cannot win without killing every last person in Gaza. It has to the north Hezbollah, which is...
he just thinks that if you end the fucking occupation and let them all back, then the hatred will dissipate. Okay. Well, you could maybe try to say that if all the other Arab states were on board with this deal as well and normalizing relations, but fuck, it's so naive. I don't know. Fuck.
Much stronger than Hamas, and now it's basically in a smaller scale war with Hezbollah too, which could easily escalate. You have Syria, you have Iran, and you have Yemen, the Houthis, which have declared war. That is precisely the scenario you're describing, where the most of the surrounding countries, or many of the surrounding countries, which are heavily armed and have no shortage of people, are seeking to destroy the regime. And
so when you're surrounded by that many adversarial forces, some of which, if we talk about Hezbollah, if we talk about Hamas, if we talk about even the early foundations of like the PLO or Fatah, when you're talking about some of these organizations that have officially, in some cases in their charter, talked about the destruction of Israel completely, and then you've got Hamas, which is a terrorist, you know, organization that is like has no problem, you know, targeting and killing civilians and everything as part of their violence. Why would an Israeli citizen feel like if they just had a one-state solution, everything would be okay? Like, how is this not setting up a perfect scenario where you're just going to see pogroms, you're going to see state-sanctioned violence, you're going to see, terrorism all across whatever the newly created state is, you know, Israel plus or Palestine plus or whatever? Why wouldn't those people feel like all of their lives are now at risk?
Well, I mean, for one thing, that's exactly what we are seeing the Palestinians suffer. State-sanctioned violence, terrorist attacks, even inside Israel. We're seeing, you know, they just passed a law where even consuming social media that it is considered subversive, you know, in support of terrorism, is now illegal, and Palestinian citizens of Israel are being arrested. So what you're describing is a total projection of what Israel is actually doing, of what Israel actually is. Now, in that scenario that there's some kind of one-state solution, I mean, the fact is, I spent years living around among Israelis and Palestinians. Palestinians are not looking to kill Jews. It's not like, we just want to kill Jews. If they did, they could have easily killed me. I mean, I was in Gaza for 7 months. Hamas knew exactly who I was. If they wanted to string me up, drag me through the street, my name is Dan Cohen. I can't hide it, they would have easily done that. So this is not about anti-Semitism. Even now, if it's a national even if it's a national conflict, which it is, the fact is, if you take away the reason for people to take up arms and be violent, then the vast majority are not going to. You might have some outliers, some who will, but overall, that's why you have the rule of law. And so I'm not saying it's gonna be like, you flip a switch and everything's like kumbaya, it's some kind of utopia. But ultimately, I mean, the only way to have some kind of peaceful future is to give everybody the same rights. I mean, it's like, if here in the United States, would we accept like living as a Christian state where anyone who is not Christian, according to the state's narrow definition, or any secular Christian is persecuted? No, I mean, we would totally reject that. So I don't
agree.
know why.
Yeah, well, I agree we would reject
okay
that, but I
Israel.
think the analysis is a little bit different in the United States because we're not surrounded by a whole bunch of people that want to kill all Christians, right?
But if the Christian state expelled a bunch of people who were like, I mean,
to be clear, we did, right?
We did, exactly.
We expelled all the Native Americans when we came here, more or less, and they're now restrained to territories that exist in the U.S.
Exactly. So Israel's not exactly a unique case. The difference is that genocide is still going on.
The difference is it feels like we put like a special restriction here on Israel, right? Like, if we're going to consider the Palestinians to all be refugees, like technically, my guess would be the majority, by the same definition, the majority of Jews in Israel would be refugees, right? Like you mentioned the expulsion.
No, they're Israeli citizens. What do you mean? Some of them may have been, yeah, some
they're
of them
Israeli citizens, but
refugees.
that's because Israel tries to incorporate them into the country, right? Whereas the Arab states surrounding the Palestinians explicitly will never incorporate Palestinians. You've got people living for generations in refugee camps.
But why should they? They're not Syrians or Lebanese.
Why should they?
Whatever.
Whoa. Can you imagine if someone made that argument for like Europe taking in refugees? Would you say that? Would you say that we can't take Syrian refugees in France because they're not French? What's the point in being a refugee, motherfucker? Holy shit. Wow. That's crazy, chat. It's absolutely insane. This guy calls himself a leftist and shit. What the fuck? Can you imagine if like there was a European policy and they're being like, we stand by our Syrian brothers, which is why we will keep you as second-class citizens for 70 years so that you can one day reclaim the promised land of Syria. We got your back, guys. No worry. You guys, Cali jungle, listen, fucking high five drowning in the Cali jungle where there's like 1,000 people and only 2 fucking toilet fucking cubicles that are overflowing. Hey, we got you, brothers. You'll get back. You'll get that Assad guy one day, Where meanwhile, we'll send like fucking 20 shitty rockets over the border every now and then to let you guys know that we're doing our bit. The fuck?
Because, for the humanitarian,
that's kind of Europe's refugee policy. Nah, Europe's refugee policy is, it's not my problem, it's another European country's problem. They're quite open about it. What do you mean that's not Europe's refugee policy at all? Maybe like there are some fucking, you know what? Actually, no, I've heard far-right people say that what we should do with Syrian refugees is basically give them all basic training and send them back so they can reclaim their country. That's actually what I've heard like fucking crazy people on like right-wing Twitter say about about refugees, which actually is kind of similar to the to the Arab states' position on refugees. Interesting. Fascinating.
For the humanitarian reason of like trying to find better lives for people instead of using them as like political pawns to maintain an indefinite struggle against another country.
That's what Israel is doing. It falls on the country or the entity that ethnically cleansed those people, not on the recipients. I mean, it's like it's not their job. And I'm not, again, I totally oppose the monarchy of Jordan.
Sure. I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying you brought up 48 and 67, and I'm pretty sure it even happened in 73 after Yom Kippur. Every single time Israel has won wars against the surrounding Arab states, all of those Arab states have also like ethnically cleansed and expelled Jewish people as well, right? That's where all of the big immigration waves were happening after 48, after the Six-Day War in 67, after the Yom Kippur War in 73. Like this happens like over and over again.
Do you know what cruel Zionism is? Do you know about like the Lavon affair or how Iraqi Jews, how they fled Iraq? It was actually Zionists that attacked them in order to compel. Zionists threw firebombs into Iraqi Jewish synagogues in order to compel them to flee because they couldn't get enough Jews to outnumber the Palestinians. And this is the whole logic of Zionism. It's not about.
I feel like the main reason Jews left Iraq was because there was a pogrom in the early 40s. And as soon as they got the opportunity to leave, they took it immediately. But what's he talking about there? Is that true that Zionists were attacking Iraqi Jews and pretending to be Arabs? Most left willingly for better economic opportunity, according to Pape. That's really dumb. That's really, really dumb. Where was the promise of good economic opportunity in Israel just just immediately after it was formed? Good economic opportunity in comparison to having your bank accounts frozen by the Iraqi government? Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Depends on which state. But nah, most of them left because they were wanting to escape persecution. Some of them were forced out, but most of them left because they didn't want to be persecuted. And the idea of living in a Jewish majority state where they're not getting persecuted, that was pretty attractive to people who were getting persecuted. Not just because they wanted to make big buck, because they wanted to make some bank. So this is afterwards. This is the 50s, apparently. Early 50s. In Egypt. He said it was in Iraq, didn't he?
Do you know what cruel Zionism is? Do you know about like the Lavon affair or how Iraqi Jews, how they fled Iraq?
Israeli defense minister forced to resign. So this wasn't even endorsed by the overall government, was it? Denied it until 2005. Damn, that's a big Israeli fucking... A big Israeli L, holy shit. Egyptian Jews were recruited to do it. Why did they do it? To blame the Muslim Brotherhood? To keep it wasn't to get refugees to come over. It was to keep the British in in Egypt, to occupy the Suez Canal. Yeah, it was to keep the Suez Canal. Okay, this guy's just lying. Okay, fine. I thought he was making it sound like they went and attacked fucking synagogues to say that the Arabs did it so that people would flee. It's just, again, it's the same thing. Here's some Israeli wrongdoing. You know what I'm going to do to it? I'm going to lie about it and make it like 1 billion times worse. Okay, wow. Interesting. Is there any evidence? Yeah, they didn't even target Jews. It was Egyptian Jews who attacked like American and other like targets that were not Jewish. Okay. Wow. Was someone actually asking me why Jews left Morocco? There were pogroms in 2 different towns. Again, if you're living in a country that's spiking up with hate crimes and persecution, and then there are pogroms in the same years, of course you're going to want to leave. Bro. Jesus. How many died? Mate, if there was a fucking anti-Lebanese pogrom, like in fucking Edinburgh, first of all, pogroms tend to presuppose that there's going to be a lot of violence anyway, that there are going to be increased hate crimes, that there are going to be increased persecution, there's going to be like lack of economic opportunity and other things. Yeah, I don't know. If fucking Lebanese Scots got fucking massacred, like 50 of them, just like an hour down the road or 2 hours down the road, I'd probably not want to live in this country anymore, actually. what a I said a pogrom, you fucking sure, August, you're a troll. You are actually a troll. There's no way you're that fucking stupid. What are you doing in my chat? Is that a government policy, mate? God, I just imagine the way you guys would talk about like anti-Muslim hate crimes in the UK, because when people talk about like there's a 300% spike in hate crimes, the number of hate crimes that happen every year to these communities is actually quite low. Maybe about like less than 100 a year in a community of like tens of millions of people. Fuck. But that's still a problem, right? You would never say, oh, what a genocide. I don't know. I feel like if this is happening and you have the opportunity to leave to a place where this is very unlikely to happen, you're probably going to go there. Yeah. Holy shit. That's not even to mention the people who die. That's not even to mention the people who get injured, who get attacked, who get fucking spat on in the streets, who get like who get their properties looted and their property destroyed. Because again, like Jews lost a lot of property in that period from the late 40s, early 50s. I don't know, even know what argument you're trying to make, because these Jews didn't do anything. They didn't do the Nakba. They didn't start the state of Israel. They were fucking. That was Europeans who did that. Oh God. I love it. I love how you, like every fucking left winger just turns into like it's not actually that many people who died. Okay.
About saving Jewish life. It's about
This is the worst thing as well. Oh God. Fuck me. A lot of revoked citizenship.
about having more Jews than non-Jews.
Sure,
So,
and I kind of understand what you're saying. I'm also familiar with the Levant affair. I think it was in the 50s when Israel, I think the Mossad tried to penetrate Egyptian society and do terrorist attacks. I'm aware of that. But also at the same time, all of these Arab countries, including Egypt, are sponsoring Fedayeen camps that are surrounding Israel, that are doing terrorist attacks on Israel the whole time as well, right? Like it's always all of the Arabs.
Which is frankly understandable. Like why would these countries...
Iraq revoked Jewish citizenships. Yeah, they also froze Jewish bank accounts. Yeah.
Well, hold on. Understandable and justified are two different things, because Israel's position is also understandable, right? Arguably, they've been under attack by the entire Arab world for the past 75 years.
They were imposed. Israel has constantly been attacking. Israel was imposed through a massive act of violence that was never, ever rectified.
Well, the massive act of violence...
maintained through constant violence.
Well, the massive act of violence, it was... them buying property, right? I mean, we can argue whether or not.
No. You don't know about the ethnic cleansing of Palestine. Are you familiar with watch the movie Tantura? Those videos are going viral, where Israeli, former militiamen of the Haganah, of the Lehi, openly describe how they.
I think the point he's making, well, that's maybe not a good argument from Destiny, because it wasn't, I think he knows it wasn't just buying property, it was buying property and then evicting people. I think it was a few thousand, I think, Arabs who got evicted by those, as a result of those land purchases. Yeah. Why is Naomi Chance fighting with Jeffrey? The mask slip. Oh, xenogender. Okay.
Mass murdered Palestinian civilians. They raped young women. They used flamethrowers to burn people alive. This is like Nazi level violence.
Sure. When we say al Nakba, it's not Nazi level. When we say
are you kidding me? Burning people alive? That's pogroms. That's straight up pogroms. That's what happened.
I'm saying
that's what happened to my family in Lithuania.
Okay.
When my family was exterminated by Nazis, and I don't think just because I'm Jewish.
In Islam, again, if you say that, then it's perfectly okay. I don't know who the fuck your persuasions are. Then I can call anything the Soviets ever did as Nazi level violence. Yeah, I can just say that. Yeah, that can't make any far left person mad ever. It's not allowed. Were there any areas of Eastern Europe where Jews were allowed to stay and given just like German citizenship and like like the Galilee. There was this whole story. I was reading about it yesterday. You know, in Nazareth, there were a lot of refugees. Like the population of Nazareth had doubled in 1948 because of the amount of refugees who had moved from other parts of historic Palestine. And Nazareth wasn't actually part of Israel's 47 partition plan borders, but they took it over anyway. They took over Nazareth, and then Ben Gurion eventually ordered to have the Arabs expelled. But there was this Canadian Jew who was in charge of the military apparatus there. His name was Ben Dunkelman. And he just said no. He just refused. He was like, no, not doing it. And then, so the Arabs stayed there. They stayed. And yeah, they were given citizenship. That's not exactly like Nazi level. That would never have happened if it was Nazis. Nazis literally wanted to starve out like 80% of the entire population of certain European countries. It's not Nazi level violence. And a fucking left-winger or a tanky would never let me say that like Stalin did Nazi level violence, because he didn't. Because as cruel as Soviet policies were in Eastern Europe, they were not Nazi level, okay? It's probably okay to say that. People always get that, it's people who read Pape, they always get this impression that Israel was just as bad as the Nazis. It's really, but again, he's like the only historian that will ever give you that impression. All the others will say that he's like very cherry picking, that it's very manipulative use of like word choice and shit like that. Yeah.
Or Israel
Sure,
calls
I'm
it
not talking about that.
Jewish
I'm just
state,
asking,
that's
like, you're talking
exceptional.
about al-Nakba. What do you know what preceded that?
Do I know what preceded al-Nakba?
Yeah.
Yes, decades of Zionist colonization.
Okay, it was
Sponsored
Israel.
by the British.
Sure, it was Israel. That's not entirely true, but it was Israel declaring themselves a country, and then every single surrounding Arab state saying that they
No,
were.
that was in the middle of the ethnic cleansing.
Yeah, the Nakba started before then. Deir Yassin was before that. I think also, oh God, which ones was it? Lida and Ramla? That was before. That was before the war started as well. Yeah. I think it was like in 47, after the partition plan. I think the very beginning after the partition plan was there were anti-Jewish attacks by Arabs. That's true. And then Israel's on the defensive for a couple of months. And then as soon as they get onto the offensive, they decide that their plan is going to be to any village that shows any aggression along these areas, we're going to just like destroy the houses and kick everyone out. It turns out that after Plan Dalit, that order was taken very liberally. That interpretation of how aggressive a village was taken very liberally. And some villages that had actually were completely peaceful with Jews and actually had peace treaties signed, they also got fucked up as well. That was Deir Yassin. Lida and Ramla, same. Yeah, this was before. Does anyone know when Plan Dalit was drawn up? It was, I think it started in the mid 40s, but it was before 48, yeah. Wasn't Deir Yassin done by a fringe group? It was done by Irgun, the Irgun, yeah. I don't think they were a fringe group, though. There were three main military groups. There was the Haganah, which were the really big one, the main one. But there was also the Irgun and Lehi, who were in charge of, Lechai, it's called Lechai. They were in charge of a lot of military operations as well. The Irgun were not like a fringe group. They also led the attack on Jaffa, which was, again, that was actually an indiscriminate bombing. That was like indiscriminate shelling. Actually, this was also Battle of Jaffa. Was at the end of April. Yeah. Listen, I have many a Zionist colonizer friend, okay? It's pronounced Lachai. Or just the Stern Gang. Isn't it pronounced Lehi? No, apparently not. Apparently it's pronounced Lachai. Yeah, I was told this by a fucking Israeli. I'm sorry. Was Deir Yassin peaceful? Yes, Warthongs. Like, even if you go to Benny Morris, I think what happened was that there were periods when militants were moving through Deir Yassin. That's true. But the villagers didn't want anything to do with them. And it eventually became the point that what they wanted, I think the Ergon, they wanted to secure the Jerusalem corridor, because Deir Yassin was very close to there. So the sequence of events, as far as I know, is that they go to Deir Yassin with a loudspeaker that's supposed to tell the villagers to flee because there's going to be a battle to root out the fucking militants or whatever. But they turn up there and the people panic, and there's like and the loudspeaker doesn't go off until gunfire has already started. So the people defending Deir Yassin were not like militants. The people who were fighting the Ergun in Deir Yassin were villagers who felt they were attacked. Lehi. Is it pronounced Lehi? Damn, I've been lied to by a fucking Jew. Damn. And then also, not that many people died in the fight in Deir Yassin. The majority of those deaths, like the 100+ deaths, were after the surrender. And actually, even though Israel has their policy of like 50 years, you release the archives and you let people see what's everything that happened, a lot of the photographs of Deir Yassin and a lot of the documentation on that massacre are still classified. They've specifically Lehi. No, that's too much of a pause. Lehi. Oh God, you guys, too much fucking hacking. Ugh. Like even Benny Morris will say that that this wasn't a battle. Let me see. Morris. What is one state solution? One state solution is what you say when you have no fucking idea what you're talking about, and you don't have anything interesting to say, so you just say them like the most soy social credit fucking thing, and then just walk away. Morris writes that it is possible some militiamen were stationed in the village, but the evidence is far from definitive. He also notes that Begin at the time didn't mention attacks from the village or the presence of foreign militiamen, as he would do years later. No evidence of militiamen in the village, and finds no reason to believe that there were any. Damn. Yeah, no. Bro, loser box, you sound cringe as fuck. Get a real job, little bro. Okay. I suppose when you say that, it just makes me wonder what the fuck I'm doing with my life. Damn. Maybe I should, like, cut down trees or something. Damn. I'm probably going to end the stream now. What's the point?
Is when Israel declared itself a state. You're talking about the UN partition plan.
No, the UN partition plan was 47. The Jewish people accepted it, the Arabs rejected it, and then after the rejection of the partition plan...
Hold on. Sure. The state of Israel was declared amid the ethnic cleansing in 1948. It was not declared in 1947 when the Nakba started. So your history is wrong, number one. Number two, Israel is not the Jewish people. I am part of Jewish people. Israel, I'm not Israeli. I'm not a Zionist. I have nothing to do with that. And frankly...
Well, they weren't called the Israelis in 47 then. Okay.
It's an anti-Semitic equation that only Zionists and anti-Semites
we're getting rough now.
I reject that
Rumble
entirely.
tumble.
Okay, that's great if you reject it, but the mass expulsion of Arab people happened after the declaration of Israel as an independent state. You can say that it was happening during the partition plan, but the partition plan that Israel agreed to only had the country as 55% Jewish people. 45% there were going to be Arab Palestinians. That was the plan that they agreed to. So to say that they were massively expelling Arabs while agreeing to an Arab-Jewish split in the population doesn't make any sense. It's ahistoric.
No, but what you're saying is you got your timeline wrong. There was the partition plan, which of course Arabs rejected for obvious reasons. Why would they agree to give up their land? And who is the UN to impose that? And then you have the ethnic cleansing, Zionist militias attacking Palestinian villages in order to get people to flee, similar to they're doing now in Gaza. And amid that, in 1948, the second year is when the state of Israel was established, not in 1947. So the ethnic cleansing had started, and the whole idea was to get as...
I think also Deir Yassin was probably the big catalyst for getting people to leave because everyone heard about it. And also, I think there was a story. There was a story about a guy, about an Irgun guy telling his fucking, because I watched a thing about this. There was like testimony from fighters and refugees. There was someone saying, I think people left because there was a war. No, I'm talking about the 200 to 300,000 people who left before the war. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, slow down. There was a story from Deir Yassin, not only about rapes and all that shit, but there was also there was a story about the Irgun after they'd surrendered, the Deir Yassin villagers had surrendered, forcing a guy to throw his son into an oven and then throwing him in afterwards. Eek. But yeah, the people who survived Deir Yassin, who fled, was like, they were like, we knew that they were doing horrible things to the girls, so we fled. It's like, yeah, Deir Yassin was horrible. I love a disagreeer who appreciates the discourse. That's the community I want. I don't want these purity testing fucking psychos in my life anymore. Okay, damn, we need to do a 48. We need to do a 48 conversation with little Dustin here. I think there were some massacres that were committed by the Arabs as well, by Arab forces or militiamen. I think it was Arab forces. I don't think it's the Palestinian militiamen. Did the Palestinian militias themselves before 48, before the war started, did they commit massacres in 47? They might have. I think there were like 2 villages. I think the worst one, if I remember correctly, the worst Jewish defeat was south of Jerusalem, where there were 4 Jewish settlements that were clapped by the Arabs and 120 people died. I think that was during the war, though. Trying to remember, we're trying to think of all the ones that were before the war. I think Ramla and Lida, that was where like there were about 50 or 70,000 Palestinians living between those 2 towns. And it was down to a few hundred after the fighting. Let me see. Lida. That was 48 July. That was during the war. Okay. Kfar Et Zion. That would be a Jewish one, right? A Jewish kibbutz against the Arab Legion just before the Declaration of Independence. Whoa. Did Jordan not do some in East Jerusalem? Yeah, there were about 1,000 Jews living in the Jewish quarter, and they all got that place got sacked, and they had to got kicked out as well. Yeah. Yeah, so we need to do a lot more reading on 48. There's a lot going on there. I think Ramla was the one where it was Rabin, actually. Rabin, of all people, asked what to do with the Arabs who lived there. And apparently Ben Gurion just kind of went like that, just gave him like a hand wave gesture. And then that was it. Then Rabin gave the order to evict them, to expel them. Yeah. That's how Ramla went down. And I think in Lida, it was Moshe Dayan, Mr. Eye Patch. I think he was the one who just basically had a unit driving through, just shooting anyone that they saw. Like any Arab they saw, just pew pew. Yeah. Although I feel like later on in his memoirs, Moshe Dayan was very candid about how aggressive they were, because I think he's the one where he's got that quote of like basically saying that like all these towns are just like naming all the different Jewish towns that are built on top of Palestinian villages. Caffel is going to do a research stream. Maybe you should share notes. Yeah, maybe. I kind of wanted to share notes with Dustin as well, but yeah.
Many Palestinians to flee as possible, push them out using terrorist means, because those were militias. Those were not state forces at the time. There were 3 Zionist militias: the Haganah, the
Irgun, and the
Irgun, the Irgun, and the Lehi, the Stern Gang. Mm-hmm. Okay, so those 3 teamed up to expel ethnically cleanse using terrorist attacks, and ethnically cleanse as much as possible of these Palestinian villages. And when they got all of them out, they had gotten those people to flee. That's when they established the state. That's the history.
Okay, that's just wrong. I don't know what to say, but the Nakba.
But you said Israel was established in 1947. That's not true.
I didn't say Israel was established in 47. I said their Declaration of Independence was 48. The partition plan was 47. It was rejected by the Arabs.
You said the establishment of the state was
Destiny, Keffels, and Lonerbox join forces to bring peace to the Middle East. Bro, we're actually the Three Arrows. That's true. Me, Keffels, and Destiny. And our human shield is Chud Logic. We turn him sideways like a battering ram.
in 47. So you're wrong, man.
I mean, everybody can go back and listen, but the declaration was in 1948, and then it was after the first Arab-Palestinian War in 48. After that, or during and after that war, that's when the mass expulsion began.
What's the point you're trying to get at? What's the bigger point here?
The point that I'm trying to get at is I feel like sometimes we get a pretty one-sided reading of history where the Israeli nation is like basically shown to be aggressive and expansionist over and over and over and over again, but people always mention the expulsion part. They never mention the stuff preceding it, which is oftentimes a lot of anti-Israeli or anti-Jewish violence from the Arab surrounding states. I'm not saying that necessarily justifies Israel, but I'm saying that this has been a back and forth for a while, and I think to present Israel as like the clear wrong here does a disservice to what actually happened historically.
Well, it didn't start in 1947, 1948. It started with the beginning of Zionism is when it started. I mean, the 1920s is really when Zionism came into, really came into its own. I mean, at first, Palestinians really didn't have problems with, European Jews. And there were Palestinian Jews, of course. But in the 1920s, when Zionists began agitating...
I think the charitable interpretation of what Destiny's saying here is that the Arabs rejected the partition plan. And from then on, from 47, they knew there was going to be a war. And they knew that... like Arab villages could be used as whatever you call it, fucking pit stops for militants, or could be used as strategic areas for militants, and that's why they decided to start clearing. Like that's like the charitable of what he's saying, because that's like the Benny Morris take. But the way he's worded that is quite staging grounds. The way that he's worded that is not good though, because he's making it sound like the expulsion only started after the war. But you would never say it in that way. You would never say it that the expulsion started after the war. Because no one counts 47 as the war. They count the war as 48, the Declaration of Independence. Yeah. Uh-oh.
Specifically around holy sites, even though they were not religious, they just saw holy sites as ways that they could exploit and create sectarian differences between the religions. Then that's when things started to get nasty in 1920 in the Nebi Musa riots, and then the decade that ended with the 1929. And what happened was, after rumors spread, well, actually, not rumors, they were true, that the revisionist wing of the Zionists were agitated.
The wiki says that the war goes from 47. I know, but again, when people make the point that the expulsion started before the war, they mean the declaration of war by the Arab states. That's like, it's just the dialogue. It's just like the fucking, whatever you call it, the nomenclature. Yeah, well, I've never used that word before, but yeah. Even though there was fighting, yeah, there was civil conflict, there was civil war in 48. Yeah.
Around the Al-Aqsa compound and the Western Wall, which Jews had basically nothing to do with. Jews didn't go and pray there then. That was a Zionist invention.
Wait, how is the Second Temple a Zionist invention?
Oh, no, not that.
It's a dumb argument. There was a civil war back then. When people talk about the Russia-Ukraine war, do people not mostly date it as February fucking 2022? Even though there was fighting before then? I guess people say it started in 2014, didn't they? Yeah. I don't know. I feel like it's probably... Or the Russian invasion of Ukraine, people say 2022. It depends. I feel like if you were saying X before the war started, but you're talking about like Minsk, it's probably okay to word it that way. I don't know.
And that's the Second Temple. Praying.
Started in 2004, Pepe. I know that. That's an Orange Revolution meme. Ooh.
At praying at the Western Wall is a Zionist invention. That was not something that Jews did. Okay, so when oh, I'm Jewish and I went to Israel, or Trump.
Well,
or Pence
when
or
you say
whatever,
they didn't do it, it's because they've historically been expelled from those lands for like some 2,000 years. Right?
No, it's because it was something that was not part of Jewish tradition, was going to the wall to pray. That is a Zionist invention. If you understand anything about Judaism, you'd know that, but I guess you're not much of a scholar of Judaism, so I'm just telling you this.
Well,
So,
I mean, hold on. The Temple Mount is literally like the holiest site in all of...
it is so holy, in fact. Okay, we're talking about two different places. The Western Wall and the Temple Mount are two different places. The Temple Mount is
Wait, I'm
so
sorry.
holy.
What is the difference between these two places?
When you see the area where like now tons of Israeli Jews go and pray, and like, where they put like a little note in the wall, in the crack in the wall, right? That is the Western Wall.
Wait, what?
So in 1625, apparently, organized prayers at the wall are mentioned for the first time. I don't. Are people saying that this was just a Zionist invention to pray at the Western Wall? What? Okay, so it isn't a 2,000 years thing. Sure, August with the mountain with the backpedaling again. Hey, sure, August with the fucking with the teleporting goalposts. It's not that. Okay, it's not a Zionist invention then. If it's hundreds of years old, it's not a Zionist invention. That's what he said. Didn't he? He said it's a Zionist invention. Wait.
I mean,
I guess you're not much of a is not
those lands for like...
Trump.
Well,
or
when
Pence
when
or
you
whatever.
say...
Basically, no, nothing. The revision. Well, actually, not rumors. They were true that the revisionist wing of the Zionists were agitating around the Al-Aqsa compound and the Western Wall, which Jews had basically nothing to do with. Jews didn't go and pray there then. That was a Zionist invention.
Wait, how is the Second Temple a Zionist invention?
Oh no, not the Second Temple. Praying at the Western Wall.
Yeah, he's saying praying at the Kotel is a Zionist invention. There ain't no way. That's not true, is it? I thought that's like hundreds of years old. Yeah, okay. Huh. Yeah, he said it was a Zionist invention. Yeah, God. Ain't no way. It's crazy. It's absolutely insane that he would say that and then brag about being a scholar. Maybe he means they encouraged it more. You're such a fucking cope fiend, Cher August. I wish you could apply this chargeability to me. God damn it. Isn't 2,000 years ago. Let's see what Destiny says.
Is a Zionist invention. That was not something that Jews did. Okay, so when oh, I'm Jewish and I went to Israel, or Trump.
Well,
or
when
Pence
when
or
you say
whatever,
they didn't do it, it's because they've historically been expelled from those lands for like some 2,000 years. Right?
No, it's because it was something that was not part of Jewish tradition, was going to the wall to pray. That is a Zionist invention.
He's saying it's a Zionist invention, that it's a tradition to do this. I'm sorry. No, fuck you. The guy's a liar. The guy's a fuck. Well, he's just wrong. He's just stupid. Yeah, fuck. Several Jewish authors from the 10th and 11th centuries write about Jews resorting to the Western Wall for devotional purposes. Yeah, well.
If you understand anything about Judaism, you'd know that, but I guess you're not much of a scholar of Judaism, so I'm just telling you this.
Well, I mean, hold on. The Temple Mount is literally like the holiest site in all of...
It is so holy, in fact. Okay, we're talking about two different places. The Western Wall and the Temple Mount are two different places. The Temple Mount is so holy.
Wait, I'm sorry. What is the difference between these two places?
When you see the area where like now tons of Israeli Jews go and pray, and like, where they put like a little note in the wall, in the crack in the wall, right? That is the Western Wall.
Wait, what do you think it's the Western Wall of?
It's the Western.
Yeah, the Western. Yeah, I think what you're saying makes sense, Warthon. The Western Wall was a barrier to the Temple Mount. You couldn't go to the Temple Mount, so they prayed at the wall. Yeah, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because the Second Temple got fucking smashed, didn't it? It got clapped. It got yeeted. Official recognition of the right of Jews to pray at the wall, 1560. That's what I saw from the Ottoman period. Yeah, it's bro. It's a bit older than a Zionist invention. Bro, this guy's a conspiracy theorist. This Jew is doing anti-Semitic conspiracy theory. This is like when people say that Hebrew was like a colonizer language, Like Like Jews never spoke Hebrew before they wanted to use it so that they could cement their presence in fucking Palestine. Eesh.
Wall of the Temple Mount.
Yes.
But the Temple Mount is an entirely different thing. It's not forbidden in Judaism to go to the Western Wall, but it's something that Jews didn't do.
Because they didn't have access to the land,
I'm telling
right?
No, that's not why. I'm telling you, I'm trying to explain something to you about Judaism that I'm guessing, are you Jewish?
I'm not, but I know a fair bit of Jewish history. I'm pretty sure after the expulsion but was it around like 100 to 150 or whatever? I think the Jewish religion started to reform a bit, and that they tried not to center as much around worshiping like holy sites, and they tried to be a little bit more religiously like related to all of the stuff that they do basically around like worship at synagogue and everything, and all the little traditions and everything they have there. But it was because they were cut out of that land. Like, it's always, for thousands of years, it's been like a dream for Jews to go back to the Middle East or to Palestine, have access to these holy sites. But the holy sites are basically completely cut off from them for...
No. It's not.
Okay.
You're wrong.
Wait, so do you think these holy sites aren't holy to Jewish people, or weren't holy in the year 1000 or 1500?
Of course they were. It's the holiest site in the world for Jewish people. But you have to understand how for thousands of years, and to this day, Orthodox Judaism...
Is that why synagogue became a thing? Because they were disconnected from their holy sites? Okay. Is that true, Warthongs? You can be my scholar of Jewish history. Yeah, okay.
The religious ones, which is not me, they approach the Temple Mount, the holiest place in the world. Mm-hmm. For Jews, it is so holy that you don't go there. Why? Because since the destruction of the temple, it is completely forbidden, because in their, sort of in the theology, they don't know where.
Okay, I could be wrong. I thought they're forbidden from going there because of the tensions that it causes. I thought they wanted to go to the Temple Mount. I thought Jews are, like, every Jew I speak to is like, it's crazy that we can't go to the Temple Mount. It's for religious reasons. Okay. Wait, so why did fucking Sharon go there then? To shit on Orthodox Jews? Oh, I don't know that. I'm just guessing. Because he isn't an Orthodox Jew. Okay. Some rabbis say it's allowed. Some don't. Okay. Chief one then. Okay. It's so funny that you're spitballing and guessing, but doing it confidently. Because no, if I think I'm right about something, I'll just say. If I'm guessing, how can I guess confidently? When I say I could be wrong, but I'm just going to say this thing and ask it like it's a question, and that means I'm saying it confidently. Well, that I ask questions confidently because I'm a Sigma male. What's wrong with that? I'm sorry, what the fuck is wrong with that? I could be wrong. I thought Jews tend to say it's okay to go to the Temple Mount. Oh, no, they don't. Okay. Damn. That's what you call... What's the correct way to say that? You called him a liar and you don't actually know? Well, he lied about the fucking Kotel, praying at the Kotel being a Zionist invention. Am I wrong about that? I'm not wrong about that. I know that because I checked. And especially the fact that he said that after being like, maybe you're not a scholar of Jewish history. YouTube scholars, I guess. The facts are the facts. I'm sorry. Just because I found it on the internet like 10 minutes ago doesn't mean it's not the fact. I'm sorry if that hurts your feelings. I'm sorry if you can't handle these straight facts getting fucking rammed in your direction like a harpoon.
What's called the Holy of Holies, where the holiest sites were on the Temple Mount.
It's only around 2 centuries apart. Sure, August, you are so desperate. If it's 2 centuries apart, it's not a Zionist invention. Oh, it's only 200 years apart. Oh my God, you're so dumb. You are so dumb. Everything you say is so fucking world-endingly stupid. I guess it's good for the content, because it gets me a bit in character, but fuck me.
They don't know where it was. So it's actually, according to all rabbis, except Zionist rabbis, which have basically rewritten Judaism in order to suit their nationalist agenda, it is completely forbidden and this is still maintained by the vast majority of rabbis, and definitely rabbis around the world,
okay.
it is 100% forbidden, one of the worst sins in Judaism, to step a foot onto the Temple Mount, let alone to pray there or anything else. And it is actually punishable by a divinely imposed death sentence.
Isn't the whole...
Whoa.
I thought that one of the like fulfillments
That's
of the
big.
Jewish religion was to like rebuild the third temple.
The only way that happens, like the entire here, I'll explain this. The entire logic of Zionism, basically, it's secular atheistic nationalists who borrowed the logic of the Jewish religion, including the ingathering of the Jews. So, anybody who had converted to the Jewish religion, like my family is not indigenous to Palestine. I'm from like Russia and, Eastern Europe. Okay. All of these people who became Jewish would one day, when God decides, would ingather, the so-called diaspora would come back would go to Palestine. So that is also, you would have a Jewish kingdom, you would have a king and a Sanhedrin, a council of kings, you would have a Jewish army, all of these, and a temple. All of these things, according to Jewish law, Jewish tradition, what all rabbis have always taught, that can only happen when God decides through supernatural means to do.
I think this is true. That's why people call Zionism like a secular endeavor, because they were kind of like, we're sick of waiting for God and the Messiah. We're just going to go there now. Yeah, that's kind of like the gist. Or so I've heard. I could be wrong. Not to sound overly confident about that.
Anything to advance that process is completely forbidden, 100% forbidden.
I feel like you're talking about like a particular sect of Orthodox Judaism.
No. This is Orthodox Judaism across the board. When Zionism came about around in the late 19th century, it was denounced as false messianism for this exact reason, because they saw that these were like secular nationalists who are who are not religious at all, who are sinners, in fact, and they said, no, this is, you're using our religion to do something completely different, and this is actually an impediment. In fact, one of the most important rabbis, the Satmar Rebbe from that era, he said he actually believed later that the Holocaust was punishment for Zionism. So the idea that Zionists have created that, it's just the will of Judaism, what we've longed for thousands of years, is completely a farce, 100%. And now, and even Zionists going back, to the...
Okay, wait, here, real quick. Okay. I disagree on this religious reading is not what I've been told by any other Jewish person. It's not what I've been linked to anyway. I'm sure there are certain radical sects, but like regardless of that.
No, that's
fine. Wait, regardless of the religiosity, what is the argument for today? Because you're advocating for a one-state solution. If you look at the history of how Jews have been treated in other Arab countries, if you look at the history of how other Arab countries have treated Jews in Israel, what is the strong argument that you can make to Israeli citizens today that a one-state solution would guarantee that they wouldn't just get massacred as soon as the country becomes an Arab and a Muslim majority country?
Look at how things are going. Israel is completely dependent on the United States. If the U.S. cuts and runs, Israel's cooked. It's completely reliant. And it is with Benjamin Netanyahu and his band of Kahanists who are, openly, explicitly eliminationists. They're explicit fascists.
This has nothing to do with the question. I think if Israel gets backed into a corner with no United States, they'll probably just fire off all their nukes. Oh, God. Eh. Slobdan Brolisevich, thanks for the tier 1 sub, and Beanpod, thanks for the tier 1 sub as well. Thanks very much.
Itamar Ben-Gvir, who is now who was part of a terrorist organization according to the Israeli government and the United States. This guy was a terrorist. He's now the head of police. He's the internal security minister in Israel. You have Bezalel Smotrich.
Sure, I understand all the names and the people. The Ben-Gvir guy is...
Well, my point is you
deranged.
have these fanatics who have come to power because Zionism has reached its logical conclusion and who are driving the country into...
Yeah, that membership did sound like it came from like a fucking... from a Yugoslav dictator. Yeah, well.
Into like... an apocalypse,
sure, but like,
Armageddon.
I don't think Israel is forcing the Palestinians to support Hamas. I don't think Israel has been forcing Hamas to be shooting rockets into Israel for the past 15 years. I don't
Hamas, think look, I like I said, I spent 7 months in Gaza. I know Gaza well. Hamas, like armed resistance or terrorism, if you want to call it that, did not start with Hamas. There were other armed groups before that. So this is not fundamentally about Hamas. Why
well, it's not, but Hamas
there...
has been there as the ruling party since 2007, right? And they've been shooting rockets nonstop ever since. So again, to reiterate the question once more, why would Jewish citizens of Israel feel like they would be safe in a one-state solution when you've got, you know, you said it, Hezbollah's to the north, Hamas is like the ruling party in the Gaza Strip, like every other Arab country still seems to be...
Look what the system has brought them to this point, to just permanent war and creating enemies at every turn. So the system, Zionism, is totally discredited.
Sure, but well, no, because prior to the system, first of all, Israel is thriving as a country in the Middle East, especially compared to a lot of their neighbors.
Are you sure? Because, I mean, for the last 3 years, there have been massive protests against the prime minister, the longest
there have been massive
protests,
and yet Netanyahu continues to hold his prime ministership, right?
Look, friends of mine in Israel who are not fanatics, they're all trying to leave the country. The Zionist project, the wheels are coming off. I mean, there's a huge divide in the country that makes, you know, I have friends who are like,
I understand there's a huge divide, but like this is like the seventh like Gaza-Israeli war. I don't know why we think this one is going to be dramatically different. But again, let's say that everything you're saying is true. Is the wheels are coming off with the history of violence from every other Arab state towards Israeli citizens. Why would we expect a one-state solution to just not end in like mass genocide or mass pogroms or mass ethnic expulsion?
I mean, that's just it's a terrible reading of history. It's just totally a false reading of history.
He's never going to answer that question, is he?
Is what it is.
Which part is false?
Constant war from the Arab states. When is the last time Jordan went to war with Israel?
Jordan, in 48, they took the West Bank, which wasn't technically owned by Israel.
Okay.
In 67, hold on, you asked me for one state. In 1967, during the Six-Day War, they fired into West Jerusalem. They were part of the coalition of states that went to war. In 73, during the Yom Kippur War, Jordan was part of the war. And after 73, with the advent of a lot of the extremist Palestinian groups like the PLO, there were basically constant terror attacks launched into Israel until that group was expelled from Jordan. So
and now you have, and since how many decades has the Jordanian government done security coordination with Israel?
I think they made peace with Israel in the mid-90s, no? They made peace with Israel in the 90s. Okay.
Where it prevents Palestinians, like when these Gaza massacres are going on and Palestinians go to demonstrate, the Jordanians stop them. They act on their behalf.
Yeah, that's great. The Jordanians do now, but what about Syria?
80s.
What about Lebanon?
But you just said these countries are in a constant state of war. Okay.
Hold on. No. I said that the history.
Israel's constantly bombing Syria.
I said that the history.
Constantly bombing Syria. Israel went to war against Lebanon in 2006 and got spanked. It had occupied it for decades before. It's like you're completely flipping reality on its head.
Hold on.
Israel has constantly been the aggressor.
Historically, okay, like in what conflict was Israel historically the aggressor? Like which one of these conflicts?
Let's see. Well, I mean, let's just look at the current situation.
Well, you said historically. We can look at the current situation, but the history informs the current situation if you want to do it historically, right? If we just want to look at the current situation, then I would say clearly Israel's surrounded by a ton of enemies. So I don't know why a Jewish person living in Israel would feel comfortable doing a one-state solution where 6 million Palestinians come back and now they're a massive ethnic minority to a group of people that have historically, you know, like genocided or ethnically cleansed them over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, no, they have not genocided
maybe not genocide, ethnically cleansed. Well, of course they've ethnically cleansed them, obviously, right?
Yeah, I mean, no, they have not. They have not genocided or ethnically
So you don't think
cleansed
after
them.
48, after 67, after 73, after every...
I think Jordan, apparently they sent forces into Syria to help after Syria was getting pushed back. That's Jordan's contribution to Yom Kippur. I don't know if they did more. They might have done.
Every single major Arab-Israeli war, you don't think that Jews have been essentially expelled from all of
I think Iraq was involved as well. I think in the Golan Heights. Yeah.
Surrounding Arab countries?
Oh, yes. Jews have been expelled. Yes,
that's ethnic cleansing, right?
This is, you know what this is?
Wait, isn't that ethnic cleansing? That is ethnic cleansing?
Sure,
so then they have been
Yom Kippur
ethnic cleansing.
73.
And you know, as we discussed before, part of that was Zionist attacks in those countries in order to compel them. So they basically did what Israel wanted. They obliged with Zionist aims.
Wait, what were the attacks that Israel wanted? The Yom Kippur War in 73 was a surprise attack by...
They wanted to get Jews to leave those countries because they didn't have enough European Jews, and so they settled for, well, Arab Jews. That's why they had the Lavon affair. That's why they attacked Iraqi Jews. I mean,
What, the Lavon affair, I'm going to double check this. Lavon affair, as far as I know, has nothing to do with Iraqi Jews. Is there anything about Iraq here? Or is this like an extra part of it that I didn't know about? No, Iraq's not even mentioned. It's about Egypt. And it wasn't about getting Egyptian Jews over to Israel. It was about keeping the British presence in the Suez Canal. Yeah, he just made that up completely. He's talking about the Baghdad bombing. All right. That's not the Lavon affair then. It is something else. Bombings of Jewish targets. There is controversy around the true identity. Okay, 2 activists in the Iraqi Zionist underground were found guilty. 2 sentences of death. The theory that certain Jews carried out the attacks in order to focus the attention of the Israeli government on the plight of Jews was viewed as more plausible than most by the British Foreign Office, okay? Telegrams between the Mossad agents in Baghdad and their superiors in Tel Aviv give the impression that neither group knew who was responsible for the attack. So it might have been rogue actors. Denied involvement by the Israeli government even after they admitted to the Lavon affair. Oh, that's why they got them mixed up, because I guess they admitted to the Lavon affair, but they didn't admit to this bombing by 2 Jewish people, apparently. If even them, like... Okay, that's a very weak theory. Okay.
At what point are you going to understand that Zionism is not about protecting Jews? It's actually about sacrificing Jewish life in order to advance nationalist goals.
Sure. I mean, you keep saying that, but it feels like the historical reading, it seems like that's what Palestinians are used for. You keep talking about Jews fleeing from Iraq. What about all the Palestinians?
Why would Zionists attack Jews? Can you think of any good reason for Zionists, any acceptable reason for Zionists to attack Iraqi Jews?
I would have to read the very particular, what is the name of the particular thing you're talking about?
Zionist attacks on Iraqi Jews. Just look it up, man. You know about the Lavon affair. You know that they did whatever they could to get
every time he keeps calling it the Lavon affair, he's killing me. I wonder what would have had more of an effect. The bombings or the fucking pogrom that happened in like the 40s and all the actions of the Iraqi government. It's just because the only reason you would focus so hard on those bombings is if you the only reason you would ever get so focused on those bombings is because you can't bring yourself to admit that to Middle Eastern anti-Semitism. Yeah.
Egyptian Jews to leave. I mean, look, here's a quote from David Ben-Gurion, the founder of the State of Israel, from 1937. He said, "If I had a choice between saving all of the Jewish children of Europe and sending them to Britain, or saving half of them and sending them to Palestine, I would choose the latter." He's happy to sacrifice Jewish children in order to nation build. That's Zionism. I mean, that is the core of Zionism.
Sure, and that's a fine quote, and we can try to go back to 1950.
And it's true.
We can try to go back to 1950, but what you're describing is that's literally what
the Nazis.
That's literally what
collaborated with the Nazis.
That's what you're accusing Israel of doing is literally what Hamas is doing right now.
What Israel did is, I mean, they collaborated with the Nazis. Look, why? It's what Israel's doing. Why, instead of like saying like, hey, maybe we need to have a democracy, Israel's saying, no, we're going to ethnically cleanse all these people, expel them into the Sinai.
Wait, but how did, I mean, like, there are literally Arab parties. There are literally Islamist parties in the Jewish government. There's literally Arabs that are sitting in the Knesset.
Are you okay? So what? So what?
Well, that seems like a really weird thing if their goal is just ethnically cleanse like all of the Arab or Palestinian Arab people or whatever from all of their lands.
Wait, so because there's some Islamist party and there's some Palestinians in the Knesset, that means that they're not trying to ethnically cleanse the Gaza Strip? Have you seen the intelligence document that came out from the Israeli government?
If they're trying to...
Do you know what the subjugation plan is?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of these, and I'm familiar with a lot of the quote-unquote
It's all real.
So
you're trying to paper over this by saying there's a there's some Palestinians in the Knesset. Big deal, man.
So it feels like this is the playbook. So we can talk about like alleged activities. So like this Baghdad bombing, where there is no hard or solid proof of any of it. We can talk about.
Of course there is. There's no question.
We can talk about these things. What there's no question about is what Hezbollah's mission is. There's no question that all of the Arab states.
Why are you a Zionist? Why are you a Zionist? I don't even get it, man. You're like an American, like,
oh no,
whatever, YouTuber, streamer. Why are you?
He's cracked. Oh no. I think okay, that's a conversation killer. Let's go.
You so fanatically committed to Zionism?
I'm not fanatically committed to Zionism. If I have a fanatic commitment to anything, it's what is a realistic solution to the current problem that exists.
Why are you against democracy?
Is anyone, sorry, since I have a big community now and I can be lazy, can anyone get me a streamable of this Cohen guy confusing the Lavon affair with the Baghdad bombings? Can someone get me that, please? Thank you.
That question is so meaningless that it doesn't even mean anything.
My proposal is very simple. I just think that everyone should have the same rights in that country, just like all other countries, just like this country. Why do you oppose democracy?
It's not a matter of opposing democracy, right?
Of course it is.
You're
criticizing my proposal.
In the cartoon where Benjamin Franklin is quoted as 2 wolves and a lamb having a vote on what to have for lunch.
So you think there's like some kind of inherent difference between Palestinians and...
Oh, you think he was just throwing stuff out? Why was he talking about it in the context of moving people out of moving Jews out of the Middle East? Oh. Okay, whatever.
And
hold on,
Israelis.
Answer my question. Do you think Ben Franklin didn't support democracy for that quote?
Well, I'm saying that
Do you think that Ben Franklin didn't
sense.
support democracy because of that quote?
No, you oppose democracy.
Do you think that Benjamin Franklin didn't? Do you think Benjamin Franklin opposed democracy? I'm just asking. I don't know where that came from. Hold on, I'm asking you. Do you think that Benjamin Franklin opposed democracy because he said that liberty is a well-armed lamb contesting the vote? Do you think that he was opposing democracy if the 2 wolves wanted to eat and the lamb didn't want to eat?
Okay, I'm sorry. If we're doing a tweet, is the Western Wall one better? Is the Western Wall when he says that about how it's a Zionist invention, but then you're like, hey, you're not a Jewish scholar? Yeah, okay.
Was that him opposing democracy?
Give me something. I don't know. I want to ruffle some feathers.
The analogy here is you're saying that Jewish Israelis are lambs and that Palestinians or Arabs are all wolves. That's straight up racist, man.
It's not racist.
Totally anti-Palestinian racism.
None of this has to do with racism. It has to do with the idea.
It totally does. No racist admits that they're racist. Come on, man. Like, you oppose democracy. You think Palestinians and Arabs are all wolves. And like, you can't see the obvious reality to anybody who examines the history and the current situation.
Yeah, I understand.
Israel has always been the aggressor.
Sure, but you haven't given me
terrorism.
You haven't given me any examples of that. It seems like your readings on most of these things are either ahistorical or just willing to engage with a conspiracy or two.
You didn't even know when the state of Israel existed. You got the timeline.
You can go back and you can look up the clips on that if you want.
Did you read this history off of the back of the Cracker Jack box?
I'm pretty sure I got the dates right.
You got to spend less time.
Pretty sure that I got the dates right.
Cracker Jack box.
You got to spend time streaming and read more history
clip farming
books.
Is that like, do we all live for TikTok now? Is that what?
No, man. You interrupt me
is?
nonstop.
I'm not interrupting you. You ramble onto the irrelevant things, and I'm just trying to get to like pretty simple points.
You interrupt me all the time. You don't
because you're rambling. You took like 5 minutes to tell me that Jews don't care about the Temple Mount. Like, I mean, Jesus.
No, that's not it. See, now you're putting words in my mouth. You don't know anything about Judaism. You don't know anything about Zionism, and you're a YouTuber who lives in your living room, and that's how you make your living. I am a journalist. I actually have skin in the game. I go to places that I talk about. Okay. So I actually know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know the Western Wall one's better. I just want someone put it in stream chat. I want a streamable of the Western Wall thing where he says that it's a Zionist invention and then brags about being a fucking...
Unlike you.
Gotcha. So you think that Jews would feel safe in a one-state solution? You don't think they have any reason to feel like their rights would be infringed upon, pogroms would happen, expulsions would happen?
You keep going back to this.
Well, because that's the whole reason. I'm not.
It's not democracy, dude.
I'm just trying to engage with what is a realistic solution forward.
Would it be a better talking point to say that Palestinians don't want the one-state solution for both groups? They don't want one-state solution for Jews and Arabs. They don't want that. They don't want to share. They don't want a 50-50 fucking split. Even the last poll I saw, 2 states were more popular. It was like 32% said 2 states and 27% said 1 state.
We've been through this like 10 times. You keep asking me the same thing.
Do you think
It's
that when you're
obvious you
in
don't
the
even know the
Gaza Strip and you're
basics of the
talking to
whole
other Arabs
situation.
there, do you think that they're happy that people like you are encouraging the violence to continue indefinitely so you can build journalistic careers on it? Like, does that make you feel good?
Oh, that's
I'm just
hilarious.
curious, right? Like, how many people have you met that have died in the recent attacks, and you're out here like on the internet jerking off an unworkable solution that'll never happen because it gets you clicks? Like, it's disgusting.
Buddy.
You realize that, right? Can you admit that?
You
know
live
that
on
a one-state
Discord.
solution will
All you
never
are
happen,
is a
right?
streamer.
You understand
All
that
you are is a
do you acknowledge
streamer.
that a
You're little
one-state
Nazi fascist
solution
who just wants to
A
cheer on
Nazi
Benjamin
fascist,
Netanyahu.
all right.
No, you called for genocide. I have the clip right here. Why don't we play it? Why don't we play this
Is
clip?
that true? We're doing the clip farming now? I don't know.
Hey,
I don't talk.
You're a bad empanada fan. Let's go. Let's get the clips. Let's go. Did you not say on December the 7th?
No,
Clips. I don't
why we
exist
play
in
the
30-second clips.
Why don't we play
Because
the
I don't
actual
exist
clip
in
where you
30-second
called for
clips. You have
genocide?
me right here.
No. Why don't we play it?
This is
Why
it.
don't-
This is all
why
it
don't
is.
we
It's the
play it?
clip
Why don't we
farming.
play it?
It's
Here,
the
you
clip
know what?
farming. Yeah.
No, this is you calling for genocide. Why don't we actually play it and show your audience? Because I know you tried to hide it from your stream so people couldn't actually see it.
Do we want to go
Let's-
through your tweets where you're claiming U.S. Special Forces are in Israel on the Gaza border, and it's literally pictures
They
of
are.
like LARPing military? Oh, do you have any evidence of that?
U.S. Special Forces are in Israel. You can look it up.
I didn't say in Israel. I said on the
Wait.
Gaza border. You
Direct participant in the genocide of Gaza because someone's got a flag on their backpack. Okay.
said they were on the Gaza
listen to
border,
it.
and it's on the
US
Gaza
drones.
border.
Here's you calling for genocide.
Listen, I'm good, dude. If you want to talk in the
Are you
future,
gonna cut
let me
me off
know.
because I'm showing you?
Yeah,
talking
I'm not
about
gonna sit here and
genocide?
have you play
Are
clips
you
to me like
really? You're
we're
not gonna-
4
you're not
years
gonna let me
old,
show
my
you
dude.
talking about
Like, if you
genocide?
don't want to engage
Come on,
with the
man,
subject
admit it.
matter, if you don't
Admit it.
know what
You're-
you think about what's going on, if you just want to throw out like a bunch of weird like
This is
Zionist
hilarious, man.
conspiracy
You're a
theories.
clown. You're a
You just want to sit here
You
like
called
talk
for
about how the
genocide.
only
You're a
possible
little
solution is a
fascist.
one-state solution.
Man,
That's fine.
Man, are
then.
you gonna tickle
Knock
Netanyahu's
yourself out.
balls
Knock
more?
yourself
Are you
out.
just
I
gonna
hope
suck on
the
Netanyahu's
Russian
fucking
paychecks are
balls?
worthwhile.
Uh-huh.
You know, I hope that you enjoy it.
Man,
Have
you
fun,
got
my dude.
clowned. You got fucked.
Jesus Christ. This is what I felt like every single debate is gonna be. It's gonna be like this.
Damn.
This is the original clip that this guy, this Hassan editor. I think he's an Hassan editor. Or people keep saying that. Is posting it like Twitter or whatever.
I will say this clip is pretty bad, and you know, thank God someone had to come in and tell it otherwise. But as far as I know, it doesn't seem to be Destiny's position anymore. I think he has kind of decided that there is like a solvable way out of the conflict. It's not like it's just unsolvable, and you have to just pick the least bad form of fucking like atrocity. Where we're not really there anymore, but you know, maybe we would have been.
Honestly, so I think Wes comes in. He's like, "What is the solution to the problem, or whatever?" Honestly,
Why is it?
Like it sounds really, but like I think that Israel should just draw its borders about where it is now, and basically Palestinians can go live in another place. That's really, but like that's about where I'm at.
You just think the Palestine should just pack.
I will never forget how you sided with the IDF over Hamas because my homophobia and my woke values. Is that why? I don't actually have a side with either of them. I just think if Hamas had the same amount of power as the IDF, they would kill more people. And if you deny that, it's because you're really fucking stupid. What can I tell you? I will never forget the time. Oh, god damn. That's the most damning thing. The guy who thinks the IDF are less bad than Hamas. Okay.
Back up and Native American the out of there?
The problem is that it seems like there is a
The fact that the IDF crosses that bar, which is somewhere in the like 7th circle of hell, is me supporting them. That's brilliant. I'm probably like hey, I'm gonna do the thing. I'm gonna do the Tabernacle thing. I'm probably like the only fucking left-leaning person here who can actually provide substantial criticisms of the IDF that are rooted in reality. Because all you guys do, when you're asked to prove to someone that the IDF is bad, you know what you do? You say, "Oh my God, they're committing a fucking genocide. They're looking at this on Twitter, Israel Twitter. They're committing a genocide. They're gonna kill everyone." That's all you guys have, and. Like, you don't know how to fucking convince anyone who disagrees with you. You're just a fucking soy virtue signaling fucking a grandstanding dipshit who has nothing rooted in reality. You just have a bunch of presuppositions. You just repeat them long enough. It becomes a truism. You've got no fucking reference point. You're not referencing reality in any fucking way. Like, that's it. Like, And then you just adopt some political position that basically results in the fighting never stopping until one side wipes the other one off the face of the earth.
Hugely general hostility to Jewish people across really the entire world, but definitely the Middle East. Okay, that's where the clip gets cut off at. This is I think the last like 45 seconds.
Please give us a substantial criticism of the IDF. Yeah, okay. They're reckless. They seem to commit very disproportionate attacks on whenever they're faced with threats from Hamas. We know that they've attacked plenty of targets in the past that had no discernible military use. They've used white phosphorus in densely populated areas, which would probably be a war crime if they actually signed to the fucking convention. People put reckless in quotation marks. You do understand that reckless is a form of a crime. I don't know why you think that's like downplay. Sorry, I should say genocidal, because that's much more fucking accurate. They have been shown many times to be incredibly weak when it comes to allowing humanitarian goods and aid to come through to move around the region. Their warning systems are quite often more of a PR move than anything that actually substantially warns people, like roof knocking, which is basically completely ineffective and only really serves for them to be able to tell the world, oh look, we knock on the roof before blowing up the building. Yeah, they have a lot of problems. Their treatment of protesters in the West Bank is pretty atrocious as well. They seem to be very quick to jump onto live rounds, even when the people on the other side are not posing the kind of threat that would warrant that. Yeah, there are plenty of criticisms, but you guys just think they're like the Nazis, and that's all you say. You just go on Twitter and call them genocidal Nazis, and that's like you get your virtue signal points. No one gives a fuck. No one who doesn't already agree with you gives a fuck. They just make the criticisms of the IDF and the criticism of Israel just look like a fucking wall of insanity.
After that, truthfully, the answer is like there's no good answer. It's hard. Yeah, it's hard.
Is Israel using white phosphorus real? I don't think the evidence is that great on it for this war, but in the 2008 war, yeah, they did. Yeah, they used white phosphorus in dense areas. Yeah, you can see it falling down and people running away, and it was fucking horrible. And there's no justification for doing that. You can see like the sun is still up. It's not even for like for the smoke thing and shit. Yeah.
It's a really, really complicated situation.
Well,
because it seems like appeasing either end basically means like kind of the destruction of the other end. If you give the Jewish people what they want, Palestinians are...
I thought Amnesty International saw evidence of white phosphorus. The problem with Amnesty is they don't really release their evidence, and they don't in a very good way, and they fucked up on Ukraine as well. They were didn't they try to accuse Ukraine of war crimes and ended up being completely wrong about it? Yeah, Amnesty are kind of like, when it comes to war crimes, they're not great. They're good for legal stuff. They're very good for like refugee stuff and all that. But for war crimes, that's not really their area. For war crimes, you can look at like the ICRC. They're good. They have very good reports criticizing the IDF when it comes to, and it's all very detailed. It's translatable to. But you say that you believe the IDF when they say human shield. If you don't think the human shield thing is real, you're just retarded. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what else you can... do you think there should be a better term for embedding their military apparatus in civilian infrastructure and then not allowing civilians to leave when they try to run away? Commandeering... What do you call it when Hamas commandeers a house to use as a temporary military base? What do you call that? Do you think that's false? Do you think they haven't done that ever? That's not believing the IDF. That's believing the fucking, the ICRC. They said that. And these people are not soft on Israel by any means. That's from the International Committee of the Red Cross. That's not me believing the IDF. That's believing critics of the IDF. I feel like probably because far left people have managed to establish like a very good presence on social media online, that they really don't, like, you guys really don't think you have to make any arguments to back up your claims. You just think you're just appealing to what you think are truisms that you don't have any proof of. It's so weird. I don't know how you can square those two things of like this feeling of intellectual superiority that goes along with people thinking like it's not my job to educate you and all that, but you actually don't have like even the most basic substantial evidence for the things that you say.
Are essentially permanently cucked out of what they feel is their rightful homeland. And if you give Palestinians what they want, then probably a lot of Jewish people are going to die. It's annoying when somebody like so blatantly, like, and I say this before, remember, I also say this about my enemies too. When you see like a 15-second clip of Bashar Hassan, oftentimes there's more context, right? But the fact that this guy would cut this 30-second clip from like 3 months ago, before October 7th, or anything like that,
Isn't this just a problem of online politics in general? Probably, yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I know like, I know a lot of right-wingers used to do this as well, like... What, you don't think white people are genetically superior? Yeah, you'll get that a lot, yeah.
so stupid. It's so bad faith. But whatever. Well...
Are you a scholar of Judaism? Compared to anyone who starts off a conversation saying like, look, I'm really educated in this subject, and you know what? No one else is. Fuck me. Okay.